No money, no problem.
Okay.
So you don't end up giving away equity in the beginning with nothing to show for it.
Business law is the most exclusive part of business, and we are here to give you exclusive knowledge at zero cost. And today we're going to talk about something called sweat equity. And before that, we have Kat with us today to answer everything we need to know.
Of
and
course.
Sweat equity, I mean, how does that differ from traditional equity?
Well, sweat equity is related to startups or small companies. And in such a company, you might not be able to pay the same type of salary as Google, Microsoft, what have you. But you might still want to attract that top talent, right? So how do we go about?
Exactly.
No money, no problem.
Okay. Tell me more.
Instead of the high salary, we can offer equity in the company. So they get an ownership stake.
Okay.
And the advantage is, of course, number one, that you don't need to have a lot of cash early on in the business, which you typically don't have, even though you need the competence. And the second great advantage will be what we call alignment of interest. Because instead of only paying me that high salary early on, so I can pick up and leave any day, you give me an incentive to stick around and build the value of the company long term. Just as you, as the founder, as the business owner, want the value to grow long term. So we align the interest between the two.
Okay, so what are the risks with this to do the sweat equity?
Well, for you as the business owner, I would say that number one, that is, imagine that you offer me 5% of the company because you see me as a key performer. I will be innovation. I will be responsible for everything developing the product. You really need me. And then you give me 5% of the company. I will still work at another company because I need my day job, but I will help you out. And the same as with you early on in the company. You will work somewhere else. So you can't say I will work full time, but you know I will contribute, right? But then after 3 weeks or 3 months, nothing's really happening in the company and I'm starting to lose interest. I don't pick up the phone as much. I don't deliver. You don't see any work in the Dropbox, really. What do?
Exactly.
You gave away 5% of the company, and I got a bit tired because I didn't get a payoff immediately. It's a struggle, and I started kind of focusing on my day job instead. So that's the biggest risk. So what we need is a vesting agreement.
Okay, and that is?
That means that even though I get the equity upfront, 5%, I will not really own it. Because I need to put in time and the effort. The shares will vest. So I will need to earn them.
Okay, and what can that be? How can you earn the vest?
Well, typically, let's say we have a linear vesting, you give me 300 shares equaling to 5% of the company. And you say that, okay, then you need to stick around and put in the effort for 3 years. And each quarter, the shares will vest. So that means that I get 25 shares that I own completely every quarter up until after 3 years. If I stick around and I do my work, I become full owner of the shares.
Okay, so that's a very good way to keep the motivation for the person.
Yeah, and ensure that you're not giving away a bunch of equity early on, and then you have nothing to show for it.
Okay, that's a big risk.
Yeah, and then I can add that you can also have cliff vesting, and that can be in total. You can say that after 3 years you get to own the shares, or you can say that after 1 year the first 100 will have vested. That's a cliff. After the first year, we will have linear vesting of 25 shares every quarter.
Okay.
So that's a negotiation point between the two of you.
Okay, so that's a good way to keep it safe.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say that I got a job at a startup and I got offered to have this sweat equity. How can I do? What should I think of?
Well, number one, how many shares or stock options? Are you happy with the size that you're getting? Because that you need to negotiate, and you can always try to push it upwards. You don't know if you don't ask. And second, you need to think about the tax consequences also.
Okay.
So make sure you know them before you accept. And in particular, if this company has done an external funding round already, then the value of the equity will relate to that funding round, so it can be a bigger tax burden. And if it's stock options, it might be, depending on the jurisdiction, that you will pay income tax when you exercise the options. So you need to talk that through together so you know when the tax consequences will occur, and also when it's income tax and when it will be capital gains tax. So that's number two. And then number three, well, that will be the vesting. How long are you willing to accept? I mean, if somebody says 10 years, I say push that back. If somebody says cliff vesting, try to push that back, because you never know what happens. And then number four, and this is from a lawyer perspective really important, we're talking about the good and the bad lever.
Okay, I've heard about that, but tell me more about it.
Because what happens if you do not stick around for 3 years? You will not have vested completely. And that will be up to the agreement between the two of you. But typically, we're talking about good, bad levers. And a typical scenario can be that if I, after 2 years, pick up and go, and I go to a competitor, I'm a bad lever. And then the contract might say, or even should say, that I do not get to keep any shares. So the vested shares, the 2 years, the 200 shares that I had already vested, I must offer them so you can buy them back.
Okay.
And that can be at cost. It can be at 50% of market value. That's a negotiation between the two of us again. So look at when are you a bad lever, and what is the consequences of being a bad lever. And the alternative will be a good lever.
Yeah, what is that?
And typically that will be when you leave, but it's not due to any fault. There's no misconduct on your behalf, no going to a competitor. It might be that I fall ill. I might get cancer and need a treatment, so I cannot perform. Then most typically I will get to keep the vested shares at least. So I get to keep the 200 shares. And not always. Again, look at the contract. It might be that I must offer that they are sold back, that you have a repurchase right. But then it might be at market value instead. So at least I get to earn something for the hard work that I have done. So my best advice is to really, really get down to the details in your contract. And if you find that the good, bad lever seems kind of off, push back, ask questions, and try to find a fair balance between the company, the founder, and you as the one being offered the equity.
Okay, but is it a common way to do like this?
Oh, very, very common.
It is?
Yeah, it's typical.
Wow. Because I mean, when I think about if I'm going to invest in a company or something, I always think money. Money, money, money. But this is a way to do it like with competence instead to do something else.
And as a lawyer, I see a lot of companies working with sweat equity. And I must say I'm a huge fan. If you share, you get more. And of course, it's proven if you look at the great startups, they most typically have a story about giving sweat equity to co-founders, to early employees. and you do align interests. And like I said, no money, no problem. So it's kind of a great equalizer also.
Yeah.
You have a chance to contribute without being a millionaire to begin with.
So what I can hear, you definitely recommend this. If you're like a new startup or a small company, it's a good way to keep more competence in the company.
I do. I must say I do. But I will add that if we look at the other side of the table, if you're the founder offering sweat equity, you need to just stop, be mindful, and make sure that you know who you want to offer it to. And also think about, do kind of a scenario, are you going to bring on investors? Just make sure that you're not completely diluted so that you maintain control in some form over the company as long as possible. And also, like I said, that you have a good vesting schedule so you don't end up giving away equity in the beginning with nothing to show for it.
Okay. Thank you so much. I got it clear, and it's nice to talk about these things because it's things you hear all the time, but you might don't know exactly what it is.
No, and there are many fantastic founders talking about the assessment, when to give sweat equity, what to think about competence. So we're trying to contribute with the legal aspects here, what to think about the hard nitty-gritty.
Yeah, the nitty-gritty things, and it's so good because if you have a startup and you're in the beginning and thinking about giving out sweat equity, I mean, this is a good way to start, at least to know what it is.
And also I want to add, if you're a business owner and you're steadily growing your small business, that might also be brilliant. If you want to bring in a fantastic CFO or a tech person or something. So it's not only for startups.
No, it could be for any company.
Yeah.
Because in my experience, I mean, if you're a good team, it's the best way to move forward.
100%.
Always.
Agree.
Always. Because I've done too much myself, you get crazy after a time.
I must say, if I see founders kind of tugging there, they often burn out or end up in trouble and they have nowhere to turn.
Yeah, I know exactly.
So I honestly believe, and that's just my opinion, everybody needs to feel comfortable with their own decisions, but I believe if you share, you get more.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you have any questions or thinking about anything, you can just drop down comments below, subscribe and like our channel because we're going to keep doing this.